All right, let's get into it. Today, we're diving into the story of two detectives, a romance that's, well, completely chaotic, and a professional partnership that kicks off with a formal complaint and ends with a nickname straight out of a weather report. We're talking high stakes, some serious tension, and, let's be honest, a whole lot of unprofessional conduct. So, where do you even start with a story like this? Well, it begins with a definition. You see, when Officer Santos was asked to describe a fellow detective, her official, on the record assessment was this: a tongue that should be registered as a weapon of mass destruction. I mean, wow. That single epic line sets the stage for one of the wildest workplace encounters you're ever going to hear about.
So, this whole thing kicks off not in an office, not in a squad car, but in a precinct stairwell. And let me tell you, this is not your typical meet cute. Oh no. This is a scene of pure, beautiful chaos that ends with Captain Rodriguez finding one of his absolute best officers in a very, let's just say, compromising position. And this is the scene he walks in on. Officer Maria Santos, looking completely disoriented, totally disheveled, and handcuffed to a railing with her own cuffs. And the culprit? Detective Mike Ramirez from another precinct, a man who is about to prove that his unique new nickname is very, very well earned. Now, obviously, an incident like that doesn't just disappear. It leads to a formal complaint and an official interrogation. But instead of some boring disciplinary meeting, it turns into this hilariously tense showdown where the sparks flying between Santos and Ramirez are just impossible to ignore. The interrogation just immediately goes off the rails. Santos, she's trying her best to keep it professional, and she points the finger squarely at Ramirez. But it becomes clear pretty fast that this isn't some simple case of harassment. The chemistry between them is just crackling under the surface of every accusation. But Ramirez, he is cool as a cucumber. He doesn't deny a thing. Instead, he just calmly points out that Santos was a more than willing participant in their little stairwell encounter. He's not just defending himself, he's reminding her that this attraction is absolutely mutual. And this is where we get to the heart of it all. In a moment of pure, unfiltered frustration, Santos just blurts out the truth. She wasn't coerced, she was completely and totally overwhelmed by the effect this guy has on her. This was never really about breaking the rules. It was about a connection that was just too strong to fight. Okay, so with the whole interrogation thing behind them, they actually agree to go on a real date. You think things might cool down, right? Nope. Just as they're about to give it a real shot, their professional lives come crashing in. A criminal they're both investigating, a guy named Marcus Henderson, decides it's the perfect time to get some revenge. And just look at how quickly this thing spirals out of control. Henderson uses their date as a trap. Santos gets ambushed, knocked out, and, get this, wakes up handcuffed to another railing. But Ramirez, he knows something's wrong. He tracks her down and it turns into this frantic rescue, all leading to a very public and very, very memorable climax. In the middle of all that chaos, Ramirez makes his priorities crystal clear. He's not just a detective on a case anymore. Not even close. His focus isn't on the bad guy they're chasing, it's all on Santos. And right there, that's the moment his feelings are just completely laid bare. This is personal. So, Henderson's in cuffs, the danger's over, or so they think. Santos and Ramirez steal a moment alone, and all that relief and adrenaline just spills over into this passionate embrace. But of course, they're not alone for long. When Captain Rodriguez finds them, Santos is still kind of reeling from the aftershocks of the rescue and of Ramirez. And in her post-adrenaline daze, she accidentally yells out the word tsunami. Right there, in front of the entire precinct. And just like that, their second nickname is born. They're no longer just Hurricane and his victim. They are now, officially, the Storm Squad. So, let's recap. We've had a kidnapping, a near-death experience, and some seriously epic public humiliation. You'd think they'd take a break, but no. It is finally time for that real first date and a chance to figure out what this insane connection between them really is. So at dinner, Santos really gets to see the two sides of this guy. On one hand, he's the perfect gentleman. He brings flowers, he says all the right things. But on the other hand, he's the hurricane, a force of nature who makes promises he has absolutely no intention of keeping. You can just feel the tension, right? The whole conversation is this amazing tightrope walk. They're actually getting to know each other, having a real, genuine conversation. But underneath all of that is this intense, flirty energy that is keeping them both totally on edge. And Ramirez's comeback, it just lays bare that physical chemistry that is always bubbling just under the surface. You know, he can play the part of the gentleman, but that hurricane is never, ever far away. But then the date takes a turn. It gets real. This culminates in this incredible moment of pure vulnerability. Ramirez, this confident, legendary hurricane tongue, he admits that what he feels for Santos is real. It's serious, and frankly, it terrifies him. He's the guy who doesn't do relationships, but for her, he's willing to throw out his entire rulebook. So with all their cards on the table, the biggest question isn't about their feelings anymore. It's about their jobs. I mean, how can two detectives with this much history and two very, very public nicknames possibly make this work inside the police department? And the answer to that question? Well, it drops like a bomb on Monday morning. News comes down the pipeline that changes literally everything, not just for them, but for the entire precinct.
Boom! Ramirez gets a permanent transfer. But here's the kicker. The real shocker is why. Turns out, he's been trying to get this transfer for 6 months, ever since he first saw Santos at a training session and was, in his own words, impressed. And their captain? Well, he's just sort of accepted his fate. He officially welcomes Ramirez to the team, and even though he's not thrilled about his precinct turning into the Weather Channel, he knows Ramirez is a great detective, and hey, this is a done deal. And just like that, this is the new normal. The Storm Squad are now official partners in every single sense of the word. Their desks are literally across from each other, their relationship is basically an open secret, and their colleagues are finding the whole thing endlessly entertaining. With their personal and professional lives now totally, completely intertwined, there are no more secrets, no more distance. They are ready to face whatever comes next, as partners, as a couple, as the Storm Squad.
I think that really sums it all up, right? The story of hurricane and tsunami was never about avoiding the chaos. It was about diving right into it. Because some storms weren't meant to be avoided. Some were meant to be experienced at full force. And for the Storm Squad, it feels like the storm is just getting started.